Good morning, everyone. The first unit, electrostatics, which is the study of charges at rest. The first chapter in this regard is electric charges and fields. Now, what is an electric charge? Electric charge is the property of a particle. It forms an entity, actually, two types of entities. It can be positive charge or negative charge. Now, the nature of charges is such that like charges always repel each other, while unlike charges always attract each other. That means similar charges repel while opposite charges attract each other. You are well aware of this concept since class 10th. There also you have studied about this property of charges. Also, charge is a scalar quantity and its SI unit is coulomb. Charge is the reason or the cause of electric force. It gives rise to an electric force. So that means whenever there's a charge, there's always an electric force associated with it, or it is also known as an electrostatic force. Moving on, the process of charging. And one of the important methods of charging is charging by induction. You must have studied about this concept in lower classes also. Charging by induction means when the charging of an object takes place without actual contact between two objects, or without actual contact of charged object with uncharged object. That is known as charging by induction. A few properties of electric charge, important properties of electric charge. Additivity. Additivity means electric charges can be added to each other. Suppose you, in a region of several charges, you are having n number of charges, which are q1, q2, q3 and qn respectively. Then in order to find the total charge in that region, you have to sum up the charges, add them up. For example, if you are having q1 is equal to 5 coulomb, q2 equals to minus 3 coulomb, q3 is equal to 2 coulomb, and you want to find the total charge in the region, then you just have to take algebraic sum. Algebraic sum means we add the charges up along with their signs. So this gives us 4 coulomb. The total charge is 4 coulomb. This property is known as the additivity of charges. The next property is quantization of charge. Quantization means the total charge on any charged object or any charged entity is always the integral multiple of E, where E, as you are well aware, E is the charge on an electron, or the charge associated with one electron. So quantization condition says this or that, or the quantization property of charge states that the total charge is always plus minus Ne, where n can be any integer, okay, and E is the charge on single electron. So total charge is always an integral multiple of charge on a single electron. The third property is conservation of charge. Just like we have studied the concept of conservation of mass, conservation of energy, in the same way charges, total charges in a system or total charge in a system is always conserved. So it also follows conservation property. So these are a few properties of electric charge, important properties of electric charge. Now the most important topic, one of the most important topics of the chapter, Coulomb's law. Coulomb's law is an inverse square law, which is similar to the universal law of gravitation, in the sense that it is also inverse square in nature. So what does the Coulomb law state? It states that whenever there are two charges in a region, suppose there are two charges q1 and q2, and the separation between the two charges is r, then the force electrostatic force acting between the two charges, it is directly proportional to the product of magnitude of the two charges. Product of magnitude of two charges means F means the force, it is directly proportional to Q1 multiplied by Q2, and this force is inversely proportional to the square of distance between the two charges. Then that is the reason why it is known as inverse square law. So F is directly proportional to Q1 to Q2, F is inversely proportional to R square. And when we do away with the proportionality sign, we have to put a constant of proportionality. In this case, this constant of proportionality is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. And it is sometimes it is also denoted by K, and it's a universal constant. Its value is 9 into 10 raised to 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. So this way we get the expression for electrostatic force acting between two charges. F is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 upon R square, where Q1 and Q2 are the magnitude of two charges, R is the distance of separation between the two charges, and the value of constant K is given here. Now if we want to write down the force in its vector form means, like in this figure it has been shown, F12 is the force acting on charge 1 due to charge 2. Similarly, F21 is the force acting on charge 2 due to charge 1, or force acting on Q2 due to Q1. So any of the two forces, they will be equal in magnitude, because magnitude is simply given by 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 to Q2 upon R square. So it will always have the same value, be it for F12 or F21. So magnitude of the two forces will remain the same, but their directions, as you can see, their directions are different. That's why if we denote it, because force is a vector quantity, so we have to denote it in the vector form. So if I denote it in a vector form, then just by using Coulomb's law, I can just write the expression 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R12 square, and along with that the unit vector R12 cap. The concept of unit vector, you're well aware of it, you have studied about it in class 11th. So what does a unit vector do? It is a vector having magnitude 1 and a direction. So it represents the direction of our force F21. So direction of magnitude of force F21 is given by the term, scalar term, while its direction is given by this unit vector R12 cap. Now if I multiply and divide the whole equation, this right hand side of the equation by R12, if I multiply by R12 and divide by R12, then R12 into R12 cap gives me vector R12. You are well aware that a vector, a scalar and its unit vector together form the vector itself. So this can be written as vector R12, and this is R12 cube. So this is another form of writing the expression of force in vector form. You can either write the earlier one with cap, or you can write this. So this is the expression vector form of this Coulomb's law, force due to Coulomb's law. Then the other type of force is F12. Now F12 is equal in magnitude to F21 but opposite in direction. That's why F12 is equal to minus F21. Both we have given vector sign. It is very important because force is a vector quantity. Now so in this way we learned how to determine the force acting between two charges, electrostatic force acting between any two charges. This we have already learned. Now principle of superposition of electrostatic force. By principle of superposition we mean that whenever there are more than one forces present in a system, then the total force can be determined by taking vector sum of all the forces, because forces are vector quantities. We cannot add them up simply just like we do for scalar quantities. We need to take the vector sum. So the net force acting in a system is the vector sum of all the forces present in the system. So suppose I have this figure, this diagram. We have two charges, q1 and q2, and there's third charge q. All three positions of all three are shown here. Now r1 is the position difference or the distance between q1 and q, while r2 is that between q2 and q. Now on this charge q, there will be two types of forces acting. One force will be F1 due to the charge q1, and another will be F2 due to charge q2. As you can see, the two forces F1 and F2 are not along a straight line. They are not along a straight line, though they are not linear. So if we want to find out the net force acting on the system, then we have to use the parallelogram law of vector addition. We form a parallelogram, and the diagonal of that parallelogram will give us the resultant of the two forces F1 and F2. You must be aware of this parallelogram law of vector addition, which we have studied in class 11th. So by parallelogram law of vector addition, the diagonal of this parallelogram will give the net force acting on the charge q due to the system of charges q1 and q2. Now we can write it mathematically in this way. The net force is F1 plus F2, vector F1 plus vector F2. That is, we are taking the vector sum, and when we are taking the vector sum, we need to mention the position vectors as well, because they make a vector. Without position vector, it will only be a scalar quantity. So I have written the values of F1 and F2 by the Coulomb's law itself. F1 is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q into q1 upon r1 square. R1 is the distance between the two, and r1 cap shows the direction. Similarly, F2 is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught q into q2 upon r2 square, r2 cap, where r2 cap is the position vector of force F2, and r1 cap is the position vector of force F1. So in this way, now after taking out 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught common out of the two terms, we have this expression. And also we can also take q common. If there is a single charge on which we are determining the force, then we can take q common. So this is for these, specifically these two forces. If I want to generalize this expression, superposition principle, for n number of forces, then the total force due to superposition of n number of forces is summation of all the forces, summation fi, where I goes from 1 to n. And when we take out q common, then the term will be q upon 4 pi epsilon naught summation qi by ri square ri cap. We have generalized the above expression for n number of charges. So this gives us the expression for force acting on a charge, single charge q, due to n number of charges present in its vicinity.